That apply to the kind of kids we're talking about, though? Or?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I haven't, in my experience, I haven't seen it. But I haven't worked with gifted children a lot. But I do know that in some of the reading, because gifted education is starting to get a little more press, which is kind of nice because I feel like they're often left out of the discussion. There's a lot more of that coming up. So it might be worth exploring. But it is important to consider that it won't be just your lowest students who will have low social skills. I have to find my place. Okay. So when we're talking about behavior, we need to think about a few things. The first is probably the most critical on here. Why is the behavior happening? Is the child trying to communicate something? Are they trying to avoid having to do something? What sort of reinforcement are they getting from this? Why is this behavior happening? And if it's a one-time thing, I mean, why are they bringing the gun to school? That's a very important question to ask. We also want to talk about, is this a behavior that we want to increase? Is it a behavior that we want to decrease? How often is it happening? How long is it going on for? Does it go on for a long time? Is it in short little bursts? Is there a delay before the behavior begins? So maybe there's something that happens, and then half an hour later you'll see the behavior pop up, or it could even be 10 seconds after they've processed what's happened. Does the behavior happen upon enticement, or is it something that just spontaneously shows up? And how does it compare to the rest of the class? So if we're talking about little Shayna who's out of her chair, is she out of her chair more often than her classmates, or about the same, or is it actually less than some of her classmates? These are some of the things that we need to consider. And when we're talking about data collection, what we're trying to do is to keep data tracking systems that give your team with the information that you need in order to make decisions. You really want something that's portable, that really can be used in any setting that the child will be in. You definitely want something functional and practical. I mean, you really want to be able to use it. And time efficient. You really don't want a system that is so complex and takes so much time and effort to implement, or even to interpret. It's also really important to make sure that everybody on your team understands the data system and that everybody can use it on a consistent basis. This is if you're working with your team in order to implement some data collection. And then just be receptive to any feedback that your team has, because maybe you think this is fantastic, this is gonna work, this is exactly what we need to be doing, but maybe somebody else on your team has a different perspective, so just be open to that. And then you always want to rework your system as things come up, because maybe you think you've defined the behavior clearly, and then as you go through, you're like, oh, what does that mean exactly? So it's always good to make sure you're clarifying. Consider how often you're going to take data. Will it be in every class? Will it be in specific classes? Like maybe the student really only seems to be having trouble in math and science, so that's when we'll take the data. Maybe they're fine in the classes, but they get into that unstructured hall time or the cafeteria or recess, so that's where we need to take data. Should it be every day? Should it be every week? Should it be every hour? When will it happen? And then this is just a list of different types of data collection tools. The first one we'll talk about is the running record. And the running record is a narrative account of everything that happens. So what you have is you have somebody who sits there in the moment and writes down everything that happens as it happens. It includes all of the behaviors from everybody who's involved. And often it's written with shorthand or abbreviations because, as you know, sitting and trying to write everything is a bit of a challenge. And it's important to note that running records will not include any judgment about behavior, but just the specific behavior itself. So I have a little video that we can practice with Finley. And so you can practice doing some running records. Oh no! I hope all my windows come back. Oops, did I do that right? Oh, there it is, okay. The volume isn't so important on this. Okay, so ready? Who feels confident they caught everything? Nobody? Anybody feel confident they caught most of it? Wow. Okay, so that's definitely one of the challenges of running records. And that was just one boy. That's not even a whole classroom of people who are interacting with each other. But some of the advantages of the running record, it gives you very detailed information, and it's a lot of information, and it really helps you figure out all the interactions. It's open-ended, so you're not limited to preset criteria because you're looking at what's happening in a classroom. Since it's written in the moment, it's more accurate because the person is just documenting what happens. And it doesn't require any special skills. I should have in there an additional disadvantage is that you need somebody else who can document all of that for you in the classroom. Have any of you ever been observed by a principal or an administrator and they come in with their computer and they write down everything? I've had that. I have great respect for them because I don't know how they can get everything down. The next is anecdotal records. You're probably familiar with this. This is probably used a whole lot more often. But it's another narrative account of an incident or event. You write it after the event happens. With running records, because it's everything that's going on while it's happening, it's going to be a lot lengthier than what anecdotal records are. And as with running records, anecdotal records, to ensure an accurate picture, you need to make sure that your notes are based on actual observations. So talking about what happened versus what you think, what you believe, what they feel. So sometimes we want to say, oh, they were angry because they couldn't do this. Well, that's not what they did. So we need to be very clear in anecdotal records, this is what they did. They threw a chair. But no interpretation of what that behavior was yet. Trying to be very specific versus vague, like, oh, they kept talking during class. But maybe we want to talk about specific times that the student was talking during class, or specific things that the student said. And then with anecdotal records, it's usually good to be concise. And often you'll see this used with daily session logs, behavior logs, or in homeschool communication if you have the notebooks that go home between the families. And we'll do this one little one, and then we'll have break. Okay, so on this one, you'll watch the video, but don't take any notes until after. Maybe. And I think the captions might only work in the small one. Ha. We won't watch the whole video. Okay, so go ahead and make your notes.